In late childhood, I learned how to play tennis on the blacktop courts of a small public park carved from farmland that had been nitrogenized too often to farm anymore. This was in my home of Philo, Illinois, a tiny collection of corn silos and war-era Levittown homes whose native residents did little but sell crop insurance and nitrogen fertilizer and herbicide, and collect property taxes from the young academics at nearby Champaign-Urbana's University, whose ranks swelled enough in the flush 1960s to make outlying non-sequiturs like farm and bedroom community lucid. Between the ages of 12 and 15, I was a near-great junior tennis player. I made my competitive bones beating up on lawyers' and dentists' kids at little Champaign and Urbana country club events, and was soon killing whole summers being driven through dawns to tournaments all over Illinois, Indiana, Iowa. At 14, I was ranked 17th in the United States Tennis Association's Western section, Western being the creakily ancient USTA's designation for the Midwest. Farther west were the Southwest, Northwest, and Pacific Northwest sections. My flirtation with tennis excellence had way more to do with the township where I learned and trained, and with a weird proclivity for intuitive math, than it did with athletic talent. I was, even by the standards of junior competition, in which everyone's a bud of pure potential, a pretty untalented tennis player. My hand-eye was okay, but I was neither large nor quick, had a near-concave chest and wrists so thin I could bracelet them with a thumb and pinky, and could hit a tennis ball no harder or truer than most girls in my age bracket. What I could do was play the whole court. This was a piece of tennis truistics that could mean any number of things. In my case, it meant I knew my limitations, and the limitations of what I stood inside, and adjusted thusly. I was at my very best in bad conditions. Now, conditions in central Illinois are, from a mathematical perspective, interesting, and from a tennis perspective, bad. The summer heat and wet mitten humidity, the grotesquely fertile soil that sends grasses and broadleaves up through the court's surface by main force, the midges that feed on sweat, and the mosquitoes that spawn in the field's furrows and in the conferva-choked ditches that box each field, night tennis, next to impossible because the moths and crap gnats drawn by the sodium lights form a little planet around each tall lamp, and the whole lit court surface is aflutter with spastic little shadows. But mostly wind. The biggest single factor in central Illinois' quality of outdoor life is wind. There are more local jokes than I can summon about bent weather vanes and leaning barns, more downstate sobriquets for kinds of wind than there are in Malamut for snow. The wind had a personality, a poor temper, and apparently agendas. The wind blew autumn leaves into intercalated lines and arcs of force so regular you could photograph them for a textbook on Kramer's rule and the cross products of curves in three-space. It molded winter snow into blinding truncheons that buried stalled cars and required citizens to shovel out not only driveways but the sides of homes. A central Illinois blizzard starts only when the snowfall stops and the wind begins. Most people in Philo didn't comb their hair because why bother? Ladies wore those plastic flags tied down over their parlor jobs so regularly I thought they were required for a real classy coiffeur. Girls on the East Coast outside with their hair hanging and tossing around looked wanton and nude to me. Wind, etc., etc. The people I know from outside it distill the Midwest into blank flatness. Black land and fields of green fronds or 5 o'clock stubble, gentle swells and declivities that make the topology a sadistic exercise in plotting quadrics, highway vistas so same and dead they drive motorists mad.